appeal to them at a personal level that I have had enough calls from you. I have received enough texts from you good people of Meru. We are going to make sure that the governor gets justice.
Just a minute, Majority Whip. Senator Mohamed Faki, what is your point of order?
Is the Majority Whip in order to revisit a debate which was closed on Tuesday this week as to whether we go plenary or we go committee. A resolution of the House was made that we go plenary, and therefore there is no need to revisit the issue. People is making the matter sub judice because he's getting calls from Meru of an issue that is pending before the House.
Boni Karwale, you know, during the communication from the chair that day, actually he advised the members not to go into the substance of that motion before that day, before we get to Tuesday or the day appointed for that discussion.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't require any gainsaying. To do so, you would be preaching to the choir. And Mr. Speaker, as far as the point of order is concerned, I would urge the Senator of Mombasa to learn from people who are more experienced. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to assure the people of Meru that we are up to the task. This is a serious matter and we shall dispense justice.
Senator Mutida Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do want to really confirm that all the 67 senators will have an opportunity to be able to give these issues the fair justice it deserves. As women, we've put our word and said that it's going to give us a clear indication if it's women issues, if it's leadership issues, incompetence issues, whatever comes across. And I want to emphasize what the majority leader has said. Kindly let us all be able to avail ourselves on Tuesday on time so that we can execute this issue for the benefit of the great people of Meru. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakoli David.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Nashukuru kwa nafasi hii kwamba mhusika mkuu katika mchakato wa kubanduliwa nje ya kiti apewe nafasi hii kujieleza wazi, Wakenya wakisikiza madai ambayo viongozi wa wadi wako nayo, waje vile vile wajieleze, na stakabadhi zinazoweza kuthibitishwa na bunge la Senate. Alafu kama ni kunyolewa, Mheshimiwa Spika, watu waandae maji, waandae sabuni, na haki itendeke kwa yeyote ambaye atakuwa na makosa. Na iwapo hana makosa, Mheshimiwa Spika, atasamehewa. Lakini jinsi ninavyofahamu, Mheshimiwa Spika, uongozi lazima kila mtu awajibike, na tutakuwa tunampa nafasi yeye na bunge la kaunti wawajibike kutokana na hoja ambazo wataleta katika jumba la Senate, na yeye na wenzake wawe kielelezo kwa magavana wengine Kenya hii ambao huenda watajipata katika hali kama hii, ama MCAs katika kaunti mbalimbali ambao pia watakuwa na hoja kama hizi, wakizileta hapa wawe wamejiandaa kikamilifu ili tuweze kuamua kama jumba la Senate watu timamu, watu ambao wanalinda ugatuzi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
What is you know, I'm trying to read the mood of this house, but I'm confused by the number of requests coming on my screen on this matter. Is that the mood of the house this afternoon? Yes? Okay. Let me test the mood. Honorable Senators, the mood is that members are saying we close this debate. Yes. And I want to put a question whether you agree with that position. So that we play in democracy in this house. So as many as of that similar opinion say aye. Aye. As those of the contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it. So therefore I put the question. That notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16th February 2023 and on the 20... No, it's okay. That notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on 16th February 2023 and on 29th March 2023, pursuant to standing order that 2 on the approval of the Senate calendar, regular sessions for the approval of the Senate calendar, second session 2023, and pursuant to standing order that 4.4b, the Senate resolves to alter its hours of meeting on Tuesday, 7th November 2023, and Wednesday, 8th November 2023, as follows. Morning sittings at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and afternoon sittings at 2:30 p.m. Order members until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. In order to investigate the proposed move from office by impeachment of the Honorable Kawira Mwanfaza, the Governor of the Meru County. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Senator Mulgo. This is I have a petition that I want to read, so have your seat kindly. Senator Romene. Honorable Senators, I have a petition to the Senate concerning academic qualifications required to be a speaker of either a county assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly. Honorable Senators, I hereby report that a petition has been submitted to the Senate by Honorable Simon Lenguia, who is a resident of Narok County and a member of Narok County Assembly, concerning academic qualifications required to be a speaker of either of the County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly. As you are aware, under Article 119(1) of the Constitution, and I quote, every person has a right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority, including enacting, amending, or repealing any legislation. Honorable Senators, the salient issues raised in this petition are as follows. A, that the laws of a speaker of either County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly require the holder to be equipped with knowledge and understanding of the provisions of the law to enable him or her to fairly, justly, and authoritatively make decisions of the House. Further, that any public office holder ought to be equipped with the knowledge of the provisions of the law to effectively discharge their responsibilities. And B, that Article 106 of the Constitution of Kenya requires that a speaker for each House of Parliament should have similar qualifications as for elected members of Parliament, and further, Section 22B(2) of the Elections Act provides that one is qualified to be elected as a member of Parliament if he or she owns a degree from a university recognized in Kenya. C, that Section 21(1) of the Elections Act also provides that the Speaker of a County Assembly shall be elected by each County Assembly from among persons who are qualified to be elected as members of a County Assembly, but are not such members. And further, Section 22B2 of the Elections Act provides that for a person to be nominated as a candidate to become a member of County Assembly, he or she should own a degree from a university recognized in Kenya. The two senators, find your way to your seats. This is a long petition. And D, Senator Chute, Senator Mulugo, you're out of order. Why are you moving when the chair is on his feet? You are roaming like... You are taking 2 years to learn these, the rules of the House. That's surprising. And D, that through the court case, County Assembly Forum and 6 others versus Anthony General and 2 others, Senate of the Republic of Kenya Interested Party, Constitutional Petition E229, E225, E226, E249, and 14 of 2021, consolidated, 2021, KEHC 304, KLL, Constitutional and Human Rights. The court ruled that the members of County Assembly shall not be required to have degrees to contest for the seats. And E, that invalidation of the provision of Section 22B2 of the Elections Act for a requirement of a bachelor's degree for one to become a member of County Assembly also implicates that there is no degree requirement for one to be elected as a Speaker of County Assembly. And F, that currently most speakers of county assemblies do not have academic qualifications in law, which makes it difficult for them to interpret and apply the provisions of the law in county legislative matters. So the petitioners therefore pray that the Senate intervenes in this matter with a view to amend, number 1, Sections 21.1 and 22.1b of the Elections Act by adding academic qualifications for the speakers and their deputies of either the County Assembly, the Senate, or the National Assembly to be a person who owns a bachelor's degree in laws from a recognized university. And 2, the standing orders of the County Assembly, the Senate, and the National Assembly to be amended to provide that powers of members of the Speaker's panel during whose House proceedings be limited to facilitation of debate, and that matters that require ruling to be referred to the date the Speaker or his deputy shall be available to make a decision. So, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Orders 237, I shall now allow comments or observations or clarifications in relation to this petition for a few minutes. Tausosi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on this petition by a resident of Narok County and a member of the County Assembly on the qualification of speakers of the County Assembly, the Senate, and also the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important petition, and I wish to request that the committee that will handle this matter acts expeditiously and communicates to this House on the way forward, because I think that is a lacuna in law which we need to deal with. But, Mr. Speaker, how I wish they looked at the issue of qualification of the Speaker holistically, and not just the issue of education qualification. There are other aspects that we will require from a Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know that the Speaker of the House like this one, or of the National Assembly or County Assembly, must be people of high integrity, people who will lead by example, and people who will protect the established traditions and norms of Parliament. And the Speaker is a key person in the House in terms of ensuring that the House, in its dealing with the people, and in whatever form of work it is engaged in, ensures highest levels of integrity, believability, and of course, Mr. Speaker, ensures that the people have trust. Mr. Speaker, we have had speakers in this parliament who have done exceptionally well, who have promoted the independence of parliament. And I think we need to sustain that. So when the committee looks at this matter, it is important for them to look at the matter holistically. Mr. Speaker, we do not expect to have a speaker who is supposed to be the referee and is a player at the same time. We are getting into a situation where our speakers are even putting on party colors. Our speakers are even engaged in day-to-day politics, in funerals, in harambes, in churches, and I think this country is treading on a very dangerous ground if we allow our speakers to be involved in that kind of thing. We want our speakers to be people who cannot be questionable, people when they sit on that seat, they exercise independence, they exercise trust, they exercise integrity. And I think
there is a point of order from Senator Boni Karwari.
Mr. Speaker, our standing orders are very clear that if a member wants to discuss the conduct of another member, the member knows what to do. The Speaker of the Senate is a member of this House. The Speaker of the National Assembly is a member of the National Assembly. And therefore, if he's not comfortable with the way they put on their clothes, let him approach the House with a motion, and we are going to dispense with it. Is he in order to discuss the conduct of speakers of this Parliament without a substantive motion, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Boni Karwari, have your seat, Senator Boni. The Honorable Senator has not mentioned any individual during his presentation. He was just giving the qualities of Angundi Speaker, but he did not mention any speaker by name. And if we targeted me, you know, he could not be speaking now. So I think just conclude 1 minute. And Honorable Senators, if we give you an opportunity, 2 minutes are enough to make your comment on a petition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for saving me from my big brother, Boni. Mr. Speaker, I have not mentioned anyone's name, and I do not want to mention anyone's name. I am simply saying that whoever holds the position of the Speaker must rise above the politics of the day and must be seen to be independent and must be seen to be fair to all the members of the House. But when some actions are done...
But also, Senator, also, you know this petition is on qualifications, academic qualifications. So just comment whether it is okay, it is not, and so that we make progress.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was saying that the committee must look at the matter holistically in terms of qualification and the conduct of the Speaker. To end this contribution, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I think it's a very wrong thing for the speakers to be engaged in politics and even be party leaders of political parties. How will they exercise fairness? How will they exercise independency? Because they are party leaders of parties and they are sitting on the speaker's seat as a speaker of either National Assembly, Senate, or County Assembly. I think this is a very serious matter, regardless of which political position you are in, Mr. Speaker. This is a matter that if not handled, we are not going to have a house that is respected by Kenyans, a house that is going to pass laws which Kenyans are going to obey. Mr. Speaker, I support the petition.
Honorable Senators, you know, according to our standing orders, the comments on a petition should not take more than 30 minutes. From the members interested to make their comments here, if you allow free will discussion, then only maybe 2 or 3 will be able to to give their comments. So strictly time 2 minutes to make the comment. Senator Mandago Jackson. How many chairs do we have, Senator Mandago? Who are you listening to?
Point of clarification first.
I've given you an opportunity to give your comment. What is your point of clarification? Want to clarify?
Mr. Speaker, in my understanding of the standing orders, a motion for limitation of debate should come from the floor. It cannot be the place of the Speaker to limit the amount of time that members are going to contribute on any particular matter.
This is a special. This is a special session today, and because of the business that we have, Senator Sifuna, actually we are at the bottom. Even I'm actually trying to help you so that you can make your comments. Senator Madago, are you ready for this, or I give Senator Chalgay? Senator Chalgay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to support this petition through you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I want to say academic qualification for speakers is important for understanding and movement of the House. But, Mr. Speaker, you know, leadership comes from God. So, Speaker, we should avoid being prescriptive. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, in the last session, under Elections Act, we postponed academic qualification for the MCAs and members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. My own thinking as a leader in this country, Mr. Speaker, because it's God-given, we should just be proficient in English and Kiswahili. You don't need to have a diploma or certificate because leadership is not equated to academic qualification, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, there is no need to disturb members of county assembly, MCAs, to go for degrees, to go for diplomas, Mr. Speaker. It doesn't make sense because when you are leading, you need wisdom. You need Solomonic wisdom, Mr. Speaker. And finally, in terms of academic qualification for the speakers, I think they need to be cognitive of English and Kiswahili. If you are proficient in both, Mr. Speaker, and I think outside academic qualification, I agree with my colleagues that we need issues of leadership and integrity, issues of competency in terms of ability and cognitiveness of what happens, Mr. Speaker. Let us not equate good leadership with academics, Mr. Speaker. We have seen professors failing nations and societies. But we have seen people who left at class 3, like Mulu Mutisha, like Ezekiel Baringetuny, Mr. Speaker, or like Oletipis, who straddled the leadership of this country like Colossus, Mr. Speaker, because of their unique, even President Moi was a P1 teacher. He became a professor of politics and led this country for 24 years, Mr. Speaker. There is nowhere that says you must be qualified, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can you protect me from the hecklers? Mr. Speaker, I want to say, in conclusion, that let us avoid. We saw people like Kwame Nkrumah, the people who are like Mr. Speaker.
There is a point of order from Senator Duro.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for Senator Cherargei to tell members that these honorable members are hecklers? Can he apologize to the House? Thank you.
Senator Cherargei, can you use parliamentary language kindly? Can you withdraw if you have insulted members?
Mr. Speaker, I am making serious points. I wish to apologize. I know it is because it's nearing weekend. Some of the people are rehearsing out to call over the weekend. I support Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wabu Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will only say two things about this petition and then say a thing as a leader in this House. Mr. Speaker, I am in full support of this petition. Yes, academic qualifications are important, but also the dignity with which people carry themselves is also important when it comes to public leadership. Mr. Speaker, the committee that will be given the responsibility to deal with this petition should seriously scrutinize the application of Chapter 6 of the Constitution in the appointment and election of speakers of county assemblies and indeed actually speakers of war assemblies. So, Speaker, the other thing that I wanted to say as a leader in this House, that, Mr. Speaker, and I will never get tired of saying this thing, it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to uphold the dignity of this House by being guided by our own standing orders and rules of debate. Mr. Speaker, it is not right that a senator would just wake up from their seat and use derogatory language against their colleagues and be comfortable with it. Mr. Speaker, it is not right. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, when it comes the time that you're going to use to debate any motion that comes to the floor, let debate flow. Those who get an opportunity to debate will debate. Those who don't get the opportunity, they don't get the opportunity. Let's just debate flow so that, Mr. Speaker, we are able to extract some value from these debates. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. But I want to remind you that this is not a motion. This is just a petition. And I'm giving members an opportunity to give a comment, 1 minute or two for a comment, and checking on the list that I have. Because also as the chair, I shouldn't be embarrassing all issues that are here. So this is not a motion, number one. This is a petition, and I'm just allowing comments. Senator Tobiko, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I see this to be a very important petition. Mr. Speaker, it raises very pertinent questions, Mr. Speaker, on the qualifications of all the speakers in the country, both in the national assemblies, the national parliament, and also in the county assemblies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe we should raise the threshold on people who are going to lead these honorable houses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do disagree with anybody who says academic qualifications are not important for the speakers, because they are, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is very important that the leadership of these honorable houses across the country have the necessary academic qualifications, have the necessary capacity, Mr. Speaker, and have the integrity that goes with the office, Mr. Speaker, and that these are people who have no questionable character, Mr. Speaker. And so I will go beyond academic qualifications, that they should also be people of integrity to meet Chapter 6, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I'm particularly concerned with those who are speakers of the county assemblies, because I see at the national level we are doing well, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, some of the people who have been appointed to be speakers in some of the county assemblies across the country, Mr. Speaker, really, the situation is wanting, Mr. Speaker. I had a speaker from one of the county assemblies
Your time is up. Senator Sifuna Edwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I happen to know the gentleman who sponsored this petition, Simon Lenguya, is nominated by ODM to the Assembly of Narok. ODM is the largest political party in Eastern Central Africa, and I happen to be the Secretary General of the party. Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that I support the petition, that in fact, we are not arguing about whether people who have questionable education or no education at all cannot lead. But we are saying what education does is to give you or grant you the tools to be able to effectively lead. I am a strong supporter of some basic minimum level of threshold of education, not just in leadership, in everything in life. It is a tool that is available for us, and especially because a few years back when Kibaki was the president, he initiated this process of free primary education so that we really don't have an excuse as to why we cannot acquire basic education. And I know, even under the Constitution, basic education is a right. So, Mr. Speaker, people should be able to exercise and encourage people to acquire knowledge and to acquire qualifications as tools to enable them to, effectively discharge their duties. If you look at the range of decisions that have to come from the chair, or any speaker in the county assemblies, here in the Senate, in the National Assembly. There are serious issues that need consideration, and sometimes I feel personally very lucky that I'm a lawyer. And in my experience in this house, when the lawyers are seated on that chair, I feel like I'm talking to people who understand what I'm saying, as opposed to others who might... I am speaking as a lawyer. If you are a charcoal seller, you'll also stand and tell us your experience in this house. Don't heckle. So, Mr. Speaker, I was saying that I feel like we are a bit lucky, those of us who have lawyers as speakers, because they are easily, they are easy to direct on matters of the law. And other matters.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, I don't want to comment on what Senator Sifuna said. You know, most of us in this house are not lawyers, but I just want to say it is important that we check the qualifications and the minimum qualifications that speakers have both at the county assemblies and National Assembly and Senate. Honorable Speaker, even as we put minimum qualifications, the committee also needs to evaluate the speakers of National Assembly since 63 up to now, between those who are lawyers or who are lawyers and those who were not lawyers, because we've also had speakers in the past at National Assembly who were not lawyers. Honorable Speaker, I only see one challenge on the position of Deputy Speaker, because some counties might not elect or nominate an MCA who is a lawyer. So what happens? So it's also important to look at that. You are a Deputy Speaker and you're not a lawyer and you're doing very well. You remember in the last parliament, actually the 11th parliament, the late Governor Joyce Laposo was not a lawyer and she was a Deputy Speaker. She did very well. So basically we need to look at that. Otherwise we'll put ourselves in a problem, especially at the counties, because they might not be able to elect or nominate a lawyer. So maybe we just put minimum qualifications, degree, relevant field, but for National Assembly and Senate, basically for the last few years, we've seen that most of them have been lawyers. But the last speaker of this house, Lusaka, was not a lawyer. And he did well. Thank you.
Senator Boru Ondinga.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to add my voice to this petition. It is a very important petition, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that we need quality. We need quality in our debates. We need quality in our leadership. Because, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the Speaker, as a leader, must lead with knowledge. Therefore, I believe that speakers should be people with some qualification. But I don't believe in, making speakers from lawyers. Mr. Speaker, once you understand these standing orders, we had an MP called Martin Shikuku. Martin Shikuku was a very, very good debater in the House, and he could control the House. If he was a speaker, he would have been a very, very good speaker, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what I think is important is to have qualifications for them, but those qualifications should not be restricted to being lawyers. That is my first take, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my second take is integrity. Once you are a speaker, please remove yourself from partisan politics. Mr. Speaker, there was a speaker here called Slade, Humphrey Slade. My father was fighting for independence, but Humphrey Slade came up to Bondo to visit him. He did not fear that that person was in the opposition, and he was elected by people who are supporting Her Majesty's government. So, Mr. Speaker, once you are a speaker of everybody, and you must not be seen to be partisan.
Senator Bass.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think as the chair of the devolution, I support this petition. because what is happening now in our assemblies is actually a very unfortunate situation. We are not saying that they must be lawyers, but however, they must be able to comprehend and able to at least communicate and understand what other members are saying, and able to at least know the standing orders and how to execute their duties properly. Honorable Speaker, you have seen, especially I have no problem with the National Assembly and the Senate, because both of them are lawyers, I know. They are going to school. We must have, this is a country that most of us have gone to school, that this is a country that has been held high in most parts of the other African countries. So we don't want to have people who have not gone to school to be at least the way my brother, the Mheshimiwa Senator for Nandi said. I think we need to have at least people who are able to read and write. We must have a minimum, bare minimum, for anybody to become a leader, especially because this is where the laws are made. This is why the people talk, debate. This house of debate. If people cannot even articulate what they're saying, then you don't need to have those kind of people there, in this house. So that's why you see most of the times the counties people are fighting, fist fighting, They solve their problems in fighting. So, and I think that's because of lack of communication. So I think I will support and I will say that the petitioner should be heard very well and supported. Thank you.
Senator Okech, Hedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I totally support the petition, and I hope that we probably will make it better in our conversation and deliberations. Because, Mr. Speaker, in this House, the fundamental things that the Speaker does functionally, one, other than just being a facilitator and a moderator of what is happening in the House, is making sure that people adhere to standing orders that run all these houses. And Mr. Speaker, if someone doesn't understand basic questions of standing orders, Mr. Speaker, I wonder how they'll be able to help the House operate. And Mr. Speaker, I've also seen from my experience in this House that the Speaker has got so many decisions that the Speaker has to make, and in most cases, the Speaker is invited to actually write down his or her rulings. I'm wondering if we don't have somebody who is qualified with some basic minimum, some bare minimum education qualifications, how then does such a person be able to actually articulate these issues? But Mr. Speaker, I've also listened very carefully to the argument of my friend Senator Sifuna. I think maybe what we should have cushioned us from is maybe getting speakers who are just randomly picked from some councils in the villages, but a bare minimum qualification does not really stop at lawyers. I think this country faces so many economic challenges that economists will be the best speakers, because the decisions that we're making in this House most of the time, Mr. Speaker, economists can be able to help with high cost of living, resource allocation that is always happening in these houses. The laws are written, they are easy to read, they are there for us. But having serious economists have been a problem who can help guide the House sometimes on matter conversation. So I would encourage
Senator Mandako Jackson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the petition by the Honorable Member of County Assembly of Narok, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support, but with amendments. First, to say that it's not only lawyers who are qualified. Honorable Speaker, we've seen even during the constitution-making process, there are a number of institutions and organizations that put themselves in the constitution, restricted some opportunities to themselves. Honorable Speaker, I think the minimum qualification for a speaker, in my view, Mr. Speaker, should be a degree. But for elected leaders, Honorable Speaker, I really don't have a problem with any leader being elected, but those who are going to assume positions of responsibility like the Speaker, should be, the minimum qualification should be a degree. Honorable Speaker, should we have an opportunity to amend the Constitution following the ruling that was ruled in court, that even governors should not have any qualification? I think it is it is a serious upshoot on the rights of other Kenyans for senators, for governors, for MPs, for members of parliament, for MCAs to be elected without any qualification. But we expect to oversight people. We have demanded that they must have certain minimum academic qualification. They must have certain minimum years of experience. When those who are elected, a majority may not have the capacity to even interpret. Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with my colleagues who have said that the qualification, yes, must be there, but must not necessarily be a lawyer. Unless a number of lawyers, and I think there are people who are looking for jobs because these days people have decided to leave their professions and begin doing other things, so they want to.
Senator Okongo Mugeni.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, we need to appreciate the good MCA from Narok, who, by approaching this House with a petition, has demonstrated a lot of faith in the Senate. You know, Mr. Speaker, for an elected MCA to elect between National Assembly and the Senate and choose Senate, it demonstrates the kind of faith that Kenyans have on this House called Senate. But the issue of academic qualification is not as simple as it may look. Last term, Mr. Speaker, I chaired the Committee of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, and we were trying to do some amendments on this issue of academic qualifications. And Mr. Speaker, when we asked Secretariat to pick best practices, we were shocked that countries that we deem to be very developed, like US, don't have anything like academic qualifications. In fact, we asked the Secretary to give us an example of one of the best speakers in the US, Nancy Pelosi. And they struggled. They said when you Google, the only thing they tell you about Nancy Pelosi is that she's a believer in accountability, she's a believer in transparency, she's a believer in human rights. Nothing about academic qualification. So if I was to look for a good speaker, I look for a speaker who is a man or a woman of integrity, Mr. Speaker. Because you can have a degree including law, but when you occupy the seat of speaker, you become a tragedy, a shame to the entire profession. So this thing of academic qualification, Mr. Speaker, is something that should put under the table. Somebody has spoken about Martin Shukuku. Martin Shukuku never went to any university to obtain a degree. Yeah, he's a Form 2, but look at the marks he left behind. So, Mr. Speaker, sorry, my time is up.
Actually, our 30 minutes we have exhausted them, the 30 minutes, but maybe let me give one from either side. Senator Boni, Garware.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at the Constitution of Kenya, it has specified that the Chief Justice must be properly schooled in law, one arm of government. The other arm of government, the executive, the president must have a degree. What would be wrong in insisting that the third arm of parliament, speakers, must have a degree? It's important that they have a degree. Mr. Speaker, Kenya has come of age. We have a lot of graduates on the market in all fields. And I want to use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to encourage our brothers and sisters who are lawyers in the Republic of Kenya. Don't be afraid of other professionals from other disciplines. If you come here and you're a lawyer, you want to be a speaker, Edwin Sifuna, you will compete with professionals from other disciplines. If you are better than them, if you are better than economists, if you are better than engineers, than surveyors, of course you have no chance against doctors, you will prove it. Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to agree with the petitioner that we should insist that only lawyers at the county level and at the national level should be speakers. And I want us to teach our children that when, Mr. Speaker, that when we insist on academic qualifications, it is not because we are looking down upon those ones who don't have education to that degree. We are just simply using it to say that if you must fly a Dreamliner, you don't use a Matatu driver. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, from the word onset, I want to support the petitioner and to clearly say that a speaker must have the required education standards, Mr. Speaker. One of us has talked about the only requirement to have been proficiency in 2 languages. But Mr. Speaker, language is a skill one could learn just by heart. And it does not depict a scope that is required to oversee an assembly. Mr. Speaker, I disagree that a speaker must be a lawyer, as Senator Sifuna says. My late friend and mentor, the late Honorable Joshua Ojode, I can share with you, cautioned some of us about 2 groups of people one must be worried about in our communities. One of them was a lawyer, and the second one was a KANU member. I do not know for what reasons, but coming to it today, I think, Honorable Speaker, we only need education for one to be a speaker, and that education must be a higher education, Mr. Speaker, sir, because education opens your scope, your application, and the way you comprehend issues. And so, Mr. Speaker, we cannot reduce speakers to be people who are only going to be to funerals to talk in their mother tongue, because these are going to be heads of assembly, people who will oversee or oversight representation and legislation, and so I support that they must possess a higher degree. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last but not the least, Senator Veronica Maina.
Sir, thank you for this opportunity. I want to support the petition that is before the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. There are certain things and certain aspects and certain principles that are learned by lawyers in college, which may not be learned in other disciplines or in other degrees, Mr. Speaker. One of them is in decision-making, basic fundamental principles of upholding. Listen through, good people. Let me finish, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point
and
of
I'm
order,
supporting the
Just a minute,
petition.
Senator
It is
Veronica.
not my petition. Yes.
Point of order by the Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the senator who is a lawyer training the Speaker must not be allowed to mislead this House and this country. That decision-making is only taught in law schools. Mr. Speaker, I am not a trained lawyer, but I make very informed decisions, both on account of my training as a journalist and as a logical human being. Mr. Speaker, she should not be allowed to mislead the House. I thank you.
Senator Veronica, you are accused of misleading the nation and the House.
Speaker, in my profession as a lawyer, I have never misled one person. I have never misled any client. I cannot mislead a Senate, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to explain to you, Mr. Speaker, to the House, Mr. Speaker, that the kind of decisions that you need to make at this level are equivalent to the decisions that are being made, not just at the High Court, not just at the Court of Appeal, but even at the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. While many people may qualify, Mr. Speaker, to sit on that speaker's seat, yet you must pick the very best that must deliver the best result you can get from that institution, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this conversation should be moving to a position where we are saying the substantive Speaker of the House should not just be a holder of 1 degree, which has become a commonplace. It should actually be at a master's level. So we need to step up this conversation, Mr.
Thank you. Our time is over, the 30 minutes. Clerk, call out the next order. Where are we? Oh, sorry. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 2381, the petition is committed to the Committee on Justice, Legal and Human Rights Affairs. And in terms of Standing Order 2382, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of order. Senator Mandago. Senator Nyutu. In terms of Standing Order 2382, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading the prayer to respond to the petitioner by offer a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. I thank you. There is a report from the Chairperson Standing Committee on Loans, Transport and Housing. Senator Sifuna, are you in charge today?
Yes.
Okay. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. It gives me great privilege to present the following petition. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following report on the table of the Senate today, the 2nd November 2023. This is the report of the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on a petition to the Senate by Mr. John Suma and other residents of Bakston Estate regarding eviction from and demolition of Bakston Estate in Vita constituency of Mombasa County. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the committee, I spoke to the chairperson this afternoon. We want to take this opportunity to thank every person from the petitioners to the county government of Mombasa, to the developers and everybody involved in the Bakston project for their cooperation during the duration of the hearings of this particular petition. Mr. Speaker, just allow me to make brief remarks regarding what we have observed as a committee when it came to the Bakston project. Mr. Speaker, one of the most glaring observations we made is that there is an abuse of the term affordable housing when people are constructing units within this country, Mr. Speaker. Because even though this project at Bakston was titled an affordable housing project, it turned out that, in fact, for many of the residents of Bakston, these houses were not affordable. Mr. Speaker, the second thing we noticed, that the agreement between the developer and the county government did not take into account the purchasing power of the people who are living in Bakston who are to give up the land for this development. One of the most glaring omissions, Mr. Speaker, we noticed was the absence of a tenant purchase scheme in the sale agreements or the agreements between the county government and the developer. What that meant, Mr. Speaker, because many of the residents of Bakston thought that they were being relocated for a brief moment of time, and that once the construction of the development was over, they would return to units that have been assigned to them by the county government. They would continue paying rent in the manner in which they were paying until the point at which that rent was sufficient to offset the purchase price of those units. This has not happened. And you will see in the recommendations that the committee has made. And Mr. Speaker, in closing, just allow me to highlight some of the recommendations that have been made by the committee, because I think these are far-reaching, especially in the times that we live in when the term affordable housing is in vogue. We here in Nairobi are alone, Mr. Speaker. We are redeveloping 13 of our old council estates. And we have sworn, as the members of the committee will bear me witness, that what happened in Bakston will never happen in any other estate. And especially because I am the Senator of Nairobi. The developments that are happening now in Nairobi, I would not want what has happened in Bakston to happen in Nairobi. These are some of the recommendations, Mr. Speaker, and I'll run through them very fast because I know I only have limited time. Number one, Mr. Speaker, the committee has recommended that all public-private partnerships of housing agreements must be made public. They must be made public so that we address the question of non-disclosures of issues that affect members. Many of the residents of Bakston were getting shocked during the hearings before the committee that the agreements did not have a TPS or tenant purchase scheme clause. So we want all the public-private partnership agreements on housing to be made public, to be available to the members of this House and even the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the second one is that public participation must be done on every single project, and it must involve effectively all the people who reside in the land that is going to be used for that development. I am happy that here in Nairobi I have seen an attempt by the county government to give residents of the estates that are affected an opportunity to speak to the proposed developments. Mr. Speaker, another key one is that the developer and the county government of Mombasa must fast-track allocation of the houses to those who completed payment, because there are people who completed payment for their units and they still don't have those units. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, to the petitioners and the people who missed out on the houses, we have made a recommendation here that, Mr. Speaker, the State Department of Housing and County Government of Mombasa must develop a mechanism to ensure the remaining 336 tenants of petitioners acquire units in Bakston through tenant purchase scheme under the National Housing Fund and submit a report to this committee within 60 days. Because this is the only way, Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that the people of Bakston get justice. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have also made an allocation that the county government of Mombasa should allocate its share of 184 units to the former tenants or petitioners immediately. Mr. Speaker, lastly, that arising from finding of the tendering process for the redevelopment of other estates in Mombasa County, the county government of Mombasa needs to furnish this committee with a comprehensive report on the status of the tendering process within 14 days. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by thanking the Senate and the Speaker and the Clerk of the Senate for the support provided in the discharge of a mandate of this committee to ensure that we resolve the issues expeditiously. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you. I want to give maybe 2 or 3 senators for brief comments. Senator Manzo Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to comment on this very, very important petition. Mr. Speaker, on the matter of housing in this country and the future of ensuring that there is enough housing for everybody, Mr. Speaker, there must be a program which the people take along with the government, and that it is applied equally and sufficiently to all people, Mr. Speaker, so that justice is seen to be done. Whatever happens in Nairobi should be seen to happen in Mombasa, should be seen to happen in Makueni, should be seen to happen in Kiambu and any other part of the country, Mr. Speaker, so that there are no different standards in different parts of the country as to the housing projects, and the most important, especially where people have been moved out of land, and that land is going to have government housing for the people, and the people are going to pay for it or have a system of making sure they don't lose their land. As it happened in Mombasa and it's happening in Kibra, Mr. Speaker, it should be the same people who were displaced from the land who should go on to get the first priority to benefit from this program, Mr. Speaker. The moment there is equity, then it will be fair to everybody, and priority must be given to the vanquished and those who have no property or place to stay at all. Mr. Speaker, I support and thank the members who went to Mombasa and made sure light has been seen for the benefit of the petitioners and the whole country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me say today, Honorable Speaker, I am in this committee of roads housing, and this petition came before us, And Mr. Speaker, this petition was brought by tenants, former tenants of Bakston Estate. When this tendering process was advertised, there was only one tenderer who tendered for that land. The land is 13 acres. And when the tenderer submitted his tender, because it was only one tenderer, it would have been a process which was non-responsive. At that point, that tender would have been nullified. They didn't. That was one grave mistake. Number two, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the cost of that Bakston land today, looking at it per square meter, Honorable Speaker, it is surprising to note that the price in Bakston today is 90,000 shillings per square meter. And the neighboring estate, which is being built now near the stadium, is going for less than 70,000 per square meter. Honorable Speaker, this issue of affordable housing is a scam. Why am I saying it's a scam, Honorable Speaker? If you look at the government giving land for free, number one, the same government is giving tax-free building materials. Same government is giving value-added taxes free. And also transferring that land is free of charge. And how, I don't know what kind of calculation they're making. After giving free government land, which is a public land, to an individual, and then that individual builds properties at not affordable price, but at an affordable price, commercial price. Mr. Speaker, if you go today, Honorable Lomonen is my witness. He bought 104 square meter property in Great Wall. He bought 2 maisonettes, 2 apartments, at the cost of 3.5 million shillings. He has documents. I am his witness. And if you look at 104, you divide 3.5 million, divide by 104, you are getting that land at 34,000 shillings, 34,000 per square meter. So why should somebody tell me that after giving this land for free, this land, the price should go to 90,000 per square meter? I don't know why. Honorable Speaker, lastly, in that committee, my view was that the government has lost land to fraudsters in the name of developers. The Speaker, I will tell you today, after 10 years, there is no land that will be left for Kenyans to use because all the land that is supposed to be developed by the government has been taken over by fraudsters pretending to be developers. The Speaker, my view was in that committee, although I was a minority, had a minority view, was this matter should be subjected to Anti-Corruption Authority, EACC, because there is a fraud that was castigated between the developer and the county government of Mombasa. Mr. Speaker, if you go to South Sea today, Eastleigh today, if you want to do any development and you have the money, you can go to the landowner. And today, the mathematics are very simple. The landowner will be getting 30% of whatever is going to be developed on that land. And it's what everybody knows. I can show this government about 1,000 contracts that has been dealt with between a developer and the landowner. And it's very simple. You can build 100 units. If you build 100 units, 30 units will go to the landowner. But in Bakston case, Honorable Speaker, is 90, the developer gets 90% and the landowner gets 10%, simply because this land belongs to innocent Kenyans.
Affordable housing project in general, and that is what has happened in Bakston in particular. We need to call a spade and stop this creation of oligarchs. Madam Speaker, the schemes we are seeing in this country through the affordable housing project, what is happening is very simple. This country has developed a character where people who are in government trade in government. The people that you are seeing as developers are appendage of people who are in government. They are not far from the people who are in government. People just use the fact that they are in power to bring these affordable housing schemes, and then after bringing the affordable housing schemes, because they want to get the land for free, they give those land for free to developers, and in those development farms, they own pseudo shares through proxies. We must stop this, Madam Speaker.
Your time is up, Senator Eddie. Senator Gloria Aruoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to say that it's very unfortunate that we are basing these very strong negative comments because of some unfortunate incidences that happened on a pilot project, because Bakston housing was a pilot project. Madam Speaker, it is, I would say it would be a crime for someone to say just because they've seen one challenge here and there, and it's good that the House of Oversight, Senate, is highlighting some of the things that went wrong. What we need to do now, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that going forward, a good project is not going to be ruined by cartels. Because, Madam Speaker, affordable housing is a real, let me say, it has already started creating jobs for the youth. It's not even just about the housing, it's about all the jobs that are created on those projects. It's also about the fact that we are trying to solve the issue of unemployment and also win in terms of affordable housing. Madam Speaker, when you look at the Juakali sector, those people are not complaining because it is through affordable housing that finally there's a government that is recognizing their skill and giving them work in terms of mass production of things such as windows, hinges, and things like that. So, Madam Speaker, just because there are a few people who are trying to take advantage of a very good program, I think that should not be the reason why we shut it down. So affordable housing people should remember that it has, the reason why the Kenya Kwanza government started this is creation of jobs and to push our Juakali sector as we are dealing with the issue of not having affordable housing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Oburu Oginga.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to inform Senator Gloria that very good things are normally quoted, are normally used to quote very dangerous things. So what matters is what is under there. Madam Speaker, the land is normally the most expensive part of any housing scheme. And Madam Speaker, if you are given land free, then the concept of affordable housing then comes in, and therefore the houses should be affordable. But if you look at the amount of money these people are reaping off from the Kenyans, the amount at which they are selling these houses, it shows that they are not cheap at all. These houses are not cheap at all. And Madam Speaker, I used to live in Bakston. Bakston is very prime land. It's very, very prime land in the center of Mombasa, and these people grabbed it. Actually, that is just grabbing of the land, acquiring that land free. You should buy the land and then sell them affordably, because the government maybe helps to moderate so that you buy it at a reasonable rate. But you cannot acquire land for free and then sell the properties or sell the houses at commercial prices, and you claim that you are doing an affordable housing scheme. Madam Speaker, I therefore think that this kind of scheme is good, because the words Honorable Oruba is using are very, very nice. It is a very nice scheme. It should not be killed. But then it should now be revised to include these people paying or giving 30% as given in other schemes.
Your time is up, Senator. Senator Manzo. Oh, Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to support the report, the petition, that as reported by the committee, actually it's a very unfortunate situation that we are denying the poor Kenyans who lived in Bakston for the last 50 years. They have been moved to the slums, and they have not been given any shares in those houses. They have not been given houses. No, the intention or the purpose of these low-cost houses is to improve the housings in this country. The people who are living actually in the slums, you go to the homes, you replace them, and they remain not, again, the beneficiaries of those houses being built. These houses now have already been taken by middle class who can afford to buy those houses. The poor that own those houses since independence have no homes today. Two, the government has lost the 3 billion worth land, and to give that the developer was given free. The materials and everything they are using is tax-free. And we are saying, in this country, we want to collect money and taxing anything that's worth $500 to be taxed. See, this is a very unfortunate situation. Yesterday, we were demolishing so many houses in Mafoko. If you want to improve living, give people houses, and you are still demolishing other houses that have been existing, instead of demolishing those houses in Mafoko, they should have been sold to those people, at least at a low cost prices. I therefore we need. I think this is actually a very unfortunate thing, and as Bashima Shuta said, this is a scam actually, and this scam must be stopped in this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Information?
Maybe I can. Yeah, no, to inform the speaker, the one who was the Senate. Yeah, I agree with just this thing of grabbing land. I've never grabbed any land, but we should be very careful in this house as the senators to ensure this thing of grab that people are called grab.
Tabitha, just hold on. What is your point of order, Senator Eddie?
But this house is a house of procedure, and that's why I'm up, Madam Speaker. She's not on point of order, she's on point of information. Can you just learn to follow the rules of the House? Madam Speaker, the senator for Nakuru has risen on a point of information. The rules of debate in this House, Madam Speaker, require that if you raise on a point of information, the Speaker who is on floor must agree to that point of information. And in any case, she is informing someone who's not even on the floor, Madam Speaker. Is this in order, Madam Speaker?
Senator Eddie, that objection is upheld. It should have proceeded in a different way. Senator Tabitha, you should have requested for point of information when the senator was on his feet, not after he has finalized his submissions. So, Senator Agnes Modama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this petition. Madam Speaker, I want to agree with the rest of most of the senators who have said that even as we build this affordable housing, where there is a land, a government land or any other land that the government wants to use for affordable houses, and there are people who have built houses there already, they should be given the first chance and the first priority to buy that land instead of demolishing their houses for the same area to be built affordable houses, because those are Kenyans just like the Kenyans who are going to be built for the houses. So, Madam Speaker, I support.
Senator Chirorike.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to support this petition. I want to say from the onset, it looks like some of our members of this House have not read the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. One of the cornerstones of President William Ruto administration is affordable housing. For the benefit and information of the House, the President just launched today handing over of Bakston Phase 1 in Mombasa a few moments ago. So, Speaker, I agree that the people who are petitioners should be given priority in allocation of Bakston Estate. So, Speaker, the aim of affordable housing is to free agricultural land. From where I come, Madam Speaker, it is very important that we now go to affordable housing so that we can free the land for agricultural purposes. And therefore, it is important, I want to advise my colleagues, even on this side, to read the manifesto of the President properly so that they understand the vision and the intention of affordable housing. I would permit the minority side to criticize because their business is just to criticize. And if they criticize, they get political ponga points and mileage. Let us not lose. Mr. Speaker, in my local language, they say, when you are chasing a gazelle and a squirrel appears, you don't stop chasing the gazelle because just the squirrel has appeared. Affordable housing is here to stay with us. The appropriation has been done. What we are is treating problems. I agree that since government has given developers public land, then, Madam Speaker, we should allow to be a bit cheaper those houses. But affordable housing program is a vision of the government and the President, and we should all support, because one of the basics of human rights, you and me know, is that housing, shelter, and food is very critical. And there are many 4 million Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, Madam Speaker, that have not gotten a chance to have decent housing in this country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
We are done with the comments that were to be given against the motion that was on the floor of the House. It was a petition, so we now go to next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader, please. Senator Tabitha.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 2nd November 2022. Report of the Audit General on the financial statements of the Kabwewa County Hospital, County Government of Kisumu for the year ended, that is June 2022. And I lay the paper.
Chairman, Agriculture Committee, Senator Murango.
Madam Speaker, sir. Madam Speaker, sorry.
You cannot use Madam Speaker, sir, in the same sentence. You have
Yes. I'm sorry. It's confusion from Senator. Madam Speaker.
Point of order, Senator Eddy.
Madam Speaker, I don't think that you should have allowed Senator Murango to get away with this. The idea of constantly referring to the Speaker of the House when any female speaker is on that chair as sir is becoming rampant, especially by this particular senator. And Madam Speaker, we are talking on this issue at a time when we have got a serious case that is coming of a governor who happens to be a woman governor that we're going to look at next week, Madam Speaker. So I think that Senator Murango should actually apologize to the Speaker. I rest my case, Madam Speaker.
Senator Murango, while I may not demand an apology, I will call you and caution you to be sensitive to the gender of the Speaker who is chairing the House at any one time and refer to the correct terminology.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'll apologize for that. Although, Madam Speaker, Senator Andy these days is the son to be a terrorist in this House, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, sir.
Senator Murango, do not use unparliamentary language. Please withdraw the use of the word terrorist against the Honorable Senator.
Withdrawn, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 2nd November 2023. Report on the Agriculture and Food Authority Bill 2023, Senate Bills number 13 of 2023. And I beg to lay, Madam Speaker.
Next order. What's your point of order, Senator Madago?
Honorable Speaker, I have a problem with the gadgets in this House because it is letting us down. Will you press the button, wait here, you will be coming to this Senate and you don't get the opportunity to contribute to the motions and the business of the House. I think the Senate should do something about it. I wanted to make comments on this Bakston report, but I pressed the button, but I don't know what is happening. I'm really disappointed because that thing is a very serious matter.
The clerk's desk, can you note the issues that we are having, technical issues that are appearing with the system on different desks, and make sure they are rectified to avoid cutting off senators who want to contribute to important motions in this House. Senator Madago, I believe the technical team should owe you an apology for that mishap. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
This is statement hour. So I want to call Senator Essie to give her statement under Standing Order 52-1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On a light note, I empathize with my chair, Senator Mandago. I know what it feels to wait, because as a committee, we are rushing to catch a flight at 5, so I feel your frustration. Where are you going? We are going for county health visits in Kisii County. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on matter of general topical concern, namely the 4-day state visit by King Charles III and Queen Camilla to Kenya. Madam Speaker, King Charles III and Queen Camilla of the United Kingdom are visiting Kenya for a 4-day stay in the country on an invitation by His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. This is a significant occurrence in the country, and do take this opportunity to welcome the King to the splendid of the magical Kenya. The King is not new to Kenya, having visited the country 3 times before becoming King. It shall also be... What has happened? It shall also be recalled that his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, ascended to the throne while vacationing in Nyeri, Kenya in 1952. But of the foremost significance also is that this is the King's first visit to a Commonwealth country and first outside of Europe since his enthronement. This is a great honor to our country, and it speaks to the prominence of Kenya in the international affairs. It is also a great marketing opportunity for our tourism industry, which is on a path of recovery from the adverse effect of COVID in 2020. We must welcome the King of the United Kingdom warmly and see the visit for the opportunity that it indeed is. Madam Speaker, ties between our 2 countries go far beyond the colonial era. The impact of the English people globally cannot be gainsaid. Their language is the most spoken language in the world. Their ingenuity to export their culture to the Americans, Indian, Australians, and even to us Kenyans is undeniable. It has serious ramifications on the global order and international trade. Ties between Kenya and the United Kingdom are therefore of importance to Kenya for decades to come. It's important to note that currently Kenya and the UK have a trade balance of more than 100 billion. Citizens of both countries have robust interactions and mutual exchange, and this must continue to be encouraged. Madam Speaker, that said, the King must have been appropriately advised to plan a 4-day stay, because in Kenya we have this good Swahili saying about how to treat visitors. Mgeni siku ya kwanza mkaribishe, siku ya pili apumzike, na siku ya tatu mpe jembe. The King has enough time in his state visit to hold the jembe and face some of the unflattering pasts that Kenyans have had. The undeniable lingering impact of colonial brutality on Kenyans by the British as they were establishing the British colony in East Africa and during the struggle for independence, especially during the state of emergency of 1952. The visit should endeavor to smoothen some of these rough edges. The reported cases of British soldiers training in Laikipia murdering our young girls are issues that must not be swept under the carpet. Further, the two governments should come up with a framework of honoring prominent personalities across the various Kenyan communities who fiercely resisted the occupation, such as Mekatalili Wamenza of Mijikenda, Field Marshal Mudhoni Wakirima of the Agikuyu, Koitalel Arap Samoy of the Kalenjin, Morangiti of the Abagusi, and others. Repatriation of historical artifacts held in British museums back to their rightful owner should also be on the table in addressing fractious areas in our past, even as we keep eye on the more beneficial areas of our relationship. Just like the skull of Otenyo lies in a British museum. Madam Speaker, the visit of the King of England is therefore a matter of immense importance to the country, both as a rare mirror of our past relations and as an opportunity to reimagine and reshape our future engagements. I urge this House to take a leading role by speaking itself and setting the tone as to inform future engagement of both our counties. The advent of devolution in Kenya is a major departure from the Kenya which gained its independence from England in 1963, and the Kenya the new king is visiting this week. Opportunities for direct engagement between counties and foreign institutions would be beneficial to the counties, and this Senate is at the center of shaping such possibilities. Finally, Madam Speaker, Kenyans wish to warmly welcome King Charles and Queen Camilla to visit as many of our counties as they can. I invite them to my home county of Kisii. We can organize for our elders for a second enthronement as a Kisii elder. In the meantime, we need to keep a perspective in regard of our past and the future of our two wonderful countries, and how amicably we have addressed the past, even as we work to forge forward in new mutually beneficial relations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Bungoma, Senator David Wakoli. Statements, understanding order 53-1.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ningependa kuanza na ya kwanza. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya kudumu 53(1) kuomba kauli kutoka kwa kamati ya kudumu ya elimu kuhusu ongezeko la visa vya mimba za mapema kwa wanafunzi wa shule za upili katika kaunti ya Bungoma. Katika kauli hiyo, kamati iangazie yafuatayo. 1. iarifu Seneti kuhusu idadi ya wanafunzi wa shule za upili katika kaunti ya Bungoma waliopata mimba mwaka huu wa 2023 ikilinganishwa na mwaka uliopita wa 2022. Pili, ibaini sababu zinazopelekea kuongezeka kwa visa hivyo vya mimba za mapema, hususan katika shule ya upili ya Mtakatifu Thomasi Aquinas Chesikaki, ambapo wanafunzi takriban 54 wameathirika. Hii ikiwa ni 22% ya wanafunzi wote shuleni humo. Na tatu, ieleze hatua ambazo serikali imechukua dhidi ya wahusika waliopachika mimba wanafunzi hao ili kukomesha hali hii ambayo imeathiri viwango vya masomo katika kaunti hiyo. Hoja ya pili, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nimesimama kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya kudumu 53(1) kuomba kauli kutoka kwa kamati ya kudumu ya barabara, uchukuzi na makao kuhusu hali ya ujenzi wa barabara pacha kutoka makutano ya Sangalo hadi Kandui katika kaunti ya Bungoma. Katika kauli hiyo, kamati yaangazia yafuatayo: 1. Iwasilishe hati zote za zabuni kutoka serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma zilizotumika katika ujenzi wa barabara hiyo, ikiorodhesha vifaa vyote na gharama zote pamoja na gharama za wafanyikazi waliohusika katika ujenzi wa barabara hiyo. 2. Iwasilishe nakala ya makubaliano kati ya serikali ya kitaifa na serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma kuhusu mradi huo, ikielezea kwa kina kazi inayoendelea na iwapo muda uliokadiriwa kukamilika kwa mradi huo ulipita. Na 3, iarifu Seneti hali halisi ya kifedha ya mradi huo, ikielezea kiwango cha fedha kilicholipwa na serikali ya kitaifa kwa serikali ya kaunti ya Bungoma na sababu zinazopelekea kucheleweshwa kwa malipo ya fedha zilizosalia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you. Senator Eddie Okech.
Madam Speaker, even as I comment on this statement, I notice that it is addressed here to Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that next time, this statement should have Mr. stroke Mrs. or Miss Speaker, Sir stroke Madam. Because, it's my statement, yes, but it's approved by the Speaker's office. Okay? And it's, that approval, mine was. So, Madam Speaker, I take this gender thing very seriously, even in how our things are addressed in this House. But, Madam Speaker, on that note, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 531 to seek.
Point of order, Senator Boni.
Yes. Madam Speaker, I rise on Standing Order number 105.
Can you take your seat, Senator Eddie, please?
The Senator Migori is misleading the House. In this Senate, the Speaker is a man, and the Deputy Speaker is a man. For any address to that position to be accompanied by MS, MRS, or anything else that is feminine, it would actually, Madam Speaker, be insulting those two people. It is true, Madam Speaker, that from time to time in the chair we find members of the feminine orientation, but you are not speakers. You are members of the speakers panel. You see, in order to mislead the country, that we have got a female speaker in the Senate of Kenya.
Honorable Senator Boni, I am persuaded to uphold your position that the substantive holder of the Speaker's seat is a man. But I am also obliged to advise that when statements are being read, it is important for the senators who are presenting anything before the House to always note whether the person representing the Speaker is a man or a woman, and adjust the language accordingly so we don't have confusion or we don't send the wrong signal on the Speaker who is presiding over the House. So there is no very correct position, but sensitivity is called for, but the substantive holder of the seat is a man. Meaning addressing the statement to Mr. Speaker, sir, is quite in order.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for educating the Senator for Kakamega on... Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 531 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the position of advisor in the public service of Kenya. Madam Speaker, in this statement, the committee should provide a comprehensive account of the